Hello, hello everyone. Welcome to our session on beginner's guide on AWS, cloud computing, and AWS. So before we get started, can you guys let me know in the comments whether you can hear me or not? I will be waiting a few minutes before session. Oh, I think there's no comments. Great. So thank you everyone for joining me in this session on beginner's guide on cloud computing with AWS. My name is Jainal Abidin Mia, a third year computer science student and AWS Cloud Captain here at BRAC University. I'm thrilled to see many of you eager to join learn cloud computing with an AWS. Today we have fantastic session lined up for you featuring an expert in the field of cloud computing, which is you might have seen the poster there, Stephen Howell. So he will be guest speaker for today's session, and we will whether you are new to cloud computing or have some basic knowledge, this session is lined up especially for you so that you guys can learn about cloud computing, also the powerful world of AWS. So without a further ado, let's kick things off. So we will be welcoming our special guest speaker with Stephen Howell. Stephen is an academic developer advocate for AWS with Ireland and UK, and he has also been he has 20 years of experience on working on software engineering, lecturing, and also been has also been instrumental in advocating for cloud computing. So, without further ado, I am adding Stephen to the stage. So, let's add Stephen to the stage. Hello, Stephen. Can you hear
Hello,
me?
I can hear you. Hello, folks. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
Very good. So I can't see any of the comments, so I'll have to rely on you to tell me if there's any
All
questions
right.
or comments.
I think we have four viewers now. So,
Very
let's
good.
see everyone comments on it.
I'm happy to wait till you tell me everyone is ready to start. But while we wait for that, thank you for the introduction. This is exciting because I don't usually get to speak to students in what part of Bangladesh are you in?
I'm from Dhaka.
Okay, say that again.
Dhaka.
Okay, and where is that in Bangladesh?
This actually, I think India. We
India,
said
yes.
India and Bangladesh. So it's the capital city of Bangladesh, Dhaka.
Oh, okay. So I know you're the next country over from India, going away from me. So I'm in Ireland, which is the last country in Europe going through India all the way across Asia, all the way across Europe. Before you hit America, you hit this little island where I live. Now it's very small. Okay, we only have like we're tiny. We only have 5 million people. Not very big. You probably have a lot more people than we have. But we're a tiny little island, and all of our clothes are have the label on our clothes all say "Made in Bangladesh." So you make very good clothes. So that's whenever you see
Yes,
anyone stylish, you know
I
where
think
they
it's
got their
your
clothes.
first time on getting a session on Bangladesh. Right?
Definitely, definitely, and I have spoken to students from Bangladesh before, but never this group, and
There's only on four club captains from
that's it. Only
Bangladesh.
four. And there's
Yes,
44 in India, and it feels
yes,
sometimes
it's like
like there's
huge.
144 because there's so many. But no, we have a few clubs in Bangladesh. I've never been. sadly, but someday maybe I'll get to visit. And but what we do have is a very vibrant student community there, just like in Ireland. And
Yes,
it's
we hope
very,
that Bangladesh there will be more captains from Bangladesh. So
we,
after this session, many of people will learn AWS and so cloud computing. So I think they will start applying knowledge on cloud computing and AWS.
well, I
Also
hope so
start
too.
free tier accounts.
Well, it is very
So,
challenging because remember, um,
and many of
Bangladesh
my university
is what?
friends don't know about what the AWS is or cloud computing. So
Well, I'm going to tell you, there is a really good
there's a
connection
comments
between.
I think.
Yeah, I see that, but I want to say there's a connection between Ireland and Bangladesh. So, if you go back many years, Ireland didn't. We didn't have an industrial revolution like many countries did in Europe, because well, for various historical reasons, and we came out of a very bad time when there was lots of poverty and lots of
Yes.
challenges, and
We
the
also gone through poverty and
well, that's
struggle.
it. And but we've come through it, and it's funny that our industry was clothing and shoes, and that's what we exported to America and England. And now we don't do any of that. Now we export
Yes,
data. We have so many data centers here, and I think Bangladesh is similar. That right now you're the
yeah,
world capital of cloth. Everyone knows they get the best clothes from Bangladesh, but
yes,
in the future, it could be that our number one export used to be agriculture, butter from Ireland, and beef from Ireland, and
yes.
now
Now
it's
we
it.
have cheap labor, so the cost
Well,
is
that's
less. So
it.
everyone chooses
Ireland
Bangladesh.
has no cheap labor anymore at all. Now everyone is a software engineer, and that only took
Yeah,
20
that's
years.
great. Like,
Very quick. So
yeah,
I'm an engineer. I'm married to another software engineer. I have four
wow.
kids who are teenagers, and they're all
They
studying
also become software
science.
engineer. I think.
Well, I don't know, but hopefully. But they're all studying science and engineering, whereas you go back to my parents, and no one studied that because you couldn't. It just wasn't possible. So it's incredible to see it just in a few short years how it's changed. And
Yeah.
I had an uncle from America. He was married to my Irish auntie. She went over to America when she was 18, like
Wow.
many Irish people, and she met this man from New York, and they got married, and she convinced him to come back to Ireland. But he was nervous because his job in America was computer programmer, and there was no computer programmers in Ireland. Now, that's only 40 years ago, and now everyone in Ireland is a computer programmer. It's amazing. So I'm hopeful that something similar will happen, and that's what I want to talk about today. Is that
Yeah,
for
that's what
your
we all.
audience, your students, your members, they might be wondering, if I'm studying technology today, am I studying, something that's going to be out of date when I graduate? And that's something students worry about a lot. And,
Yes.
I want to apologize, first of all, and say, you know, uh, I don't speak the local language. So I'm afraid I can only
Ah,
do
no
this in
worries.
English. But you speak English very well, and hopefully everyone can understand me.
We also comfortable in English. English.
That's what I see. So that's actually a very valuable thing because when I was growing up, I only spoke English and Irish, and they are not related languages, so they're completely different. But nowadays, I mostly speak English because that's the
Yeah,
language of business. So if I'm working with a French or German or
yeah.
American
You have
or
to speak in
Bangladesh
English.
colleague, I always speak in English, and so do they. So in a way, it's funny that that's not my language, but it's the language of business. So I'm sorry I'm speaking the language of business today
No
because
worries. We're
I don't
comfortable
speak.
in speaking English. So many of his
Good,
students are university students, so they know also English
wonderful,
and they
wonderful. Well,
understand really well.
that's really good to hear. So the other thing is when you did the introduction, which was made me sound very fancy, and I'm not very fancy. I've been a software engineer for you know, qualified as a software engineer, like officially since
Yeah.
1998, which was like might as well be 100 years ago to you students. But I was writing code when I was much younger. I wasn't an engineer, but I was a coder. I was building things. And if we go back to when I was a little kid writing code on these computers you see behind me, okay, so I'll move out of the way so you can see them.
Wow,
Now they're
that's
they're antique computers, really old. And when I learned to code on those, I was learning a skill that I didn't realize would be so valuable when I was older and wanted to make money. And people would pay you if you could code to write software for them. And I loved
yeah.
doing that. But then something amazing happened. When I was 17 and going to university,
Wow.
the internet came to Ireland for the first time. Now, you can't remember a time without the internet, but I can because I was nearly an adult when the internet came to Ireland. So imagine the, the incredible difference that made to being a programmer. You now had to understand how to write programs online. And then apps came along on mobile phones. And at this point, I had left software engineering. I used to be a programmer in IBM. It's my first job. And I left and I went to um, join a university where I became a lecturer. And I was teaching students how to code, which I liked very much. And that job I started in 2002, before the cloud.
Wow.
And then when the cloud came, it completely changed that job. Now, some of my colleagues, they didn't care about the cloud. So they still taught what they'd always taught. And that's okay. You can do that if you're teaching something very theoretical, like
Yeah.
formal methods and maths. But if you're teaching something very practical, the cloud has completely changed how we do practical software engineering. And I'll give you an example that if I hopped in an airplane right now and I flew over all the way to you and said, you know, Zainal, I'm hungry. Let's go get something to eat. And you said, I'm going to
Yes.
make you the best food you ever had after your very long journey on the airplane. Now, you could
Yes.
serve that up to me in many different ways. You could bring me to a nice restaurant where all we had to do was sit
Yeah.
down and say what we wanted. Or
Yeah.
you could decide you're going to save some money and you could bring me to a shop and we go in and we'd buy all the ingredients and we go home to you where you are and we'd cook up a nice meal. Or you could bring me out to a field and say, Stephen, to make the best meal, we first have to grow some rice. And that's going to take us a few months. Now,
Yes.
in each level of those, there's a different amount of effort. Like sitting in a chair in a restaurant is a lot less effort than cooking, which is a lot less effort than growing the crops ourselves. But it used to
Yeah.
be like that in software development. When I was a baby developer in IBM 100 years ago, if we wanted a database, we couldn't just say to the cloud, give me a database. And it was like, there's your database. We had to find the database, buy the database, wait for it to be delivered on floppy disks, which you've never seen, but they look like the save icon. Put
Yeah.
100 floppy disks into a computer one by one, and then set up the database. And we had to become an expert on that database. And we didn't care about it. We just wanted a database. But you couldn't just say, give me a database. And the same thing, you used to hear people talking about servers. And, in the olden days, a server was a big computer that sat underneath your desk. And if you accidentally kicked the wire, you could knock the whole server offline, which you shouldn't do. And
Yes.
nowadays, servers are all in a data center far away. So we
Yeah.
actually, as a lecturer, I had to change the way I prepared students. You could no longer say, in my day, we had a server underneath the desk. Well, no one does that anymore. And if they do, those days are rapidly disappearing. You can't
Yes.
say, if your customer comes in and says, where's all my data? And you say, oh, well, I don't have a backup. Well, you're in trouble. You have to, if you're a business, you have to take care of your customers'
Yeah.
data. So cloud changed my understanding of how to teach software engineering as a lecturer. And it's funny now that, that I left lecturing in 2013 to do this job
Wow.
where I teach students about cloud and
Yes,
AI and all
cloud.
those things. But in all that time, cloud continually makes it easier to be a productive
Yes.
software engineer. And by that I mean, um, when I was 17, I wrote a database for a little local company, just a little company. They make
So,
thermometers, temperature gauges for food. And if you're in a shop and you're selling food, it's very cold in Ireland, but, food, if it gets too hot, will go bad. So you would use the
yes.
thermometer to check is the food kept at a cool temperature because it's not that cold in Ireland. And and they needed a database to keep track of these thermometers. So I built the database and I wrote it on a Dell computer. Now, these computers don't look like the cool Dells we have nowadays that are sleek and beautiful. No, this was an ancient computer. This was a big, let's just say, what was it? It was like a big grey box with a huge monitor on it. The screen was this size, but the box was that size, like an old television. This is back in the 90s, a long time ago.
Yeah,
And we would write the software on that computer before the internet, and
yeah.
it only worked on that computer. And they didn't need it to be online because it was all in their factory.
Yeah.
So many years later, my son, when he was 17, my eldest boy, Jack, he did his work placement there in that same company because I was friends with them and he did a week of work experience. And they still had the old Dell computer because they were afraid to upgrade it. Imagine keep and whenever it would break down, they would buy a spare part on eBay
Yeah,
and
that's
keep it
so.
going. And why were they doing that? I mean, the software was in Java, it would work in another computer, but in their mind, it only worked on this computer, and they were afraid to lose anything or break anything. And it goes to show that we have to think about our customers in the future. So when I was
Yes.
17, I didn't understand that my customer, which was this little company, lovely people, did not understand computers can be upgraded. You can get new computers. You can move the software onto them. They didn't understand that. And it's like saying, well, this is the first car I ever had, and I'm afraid to change it because I don't know if a new car will be able to go on the same roads. Well, that's not how cars work, but they just have that fear.
Yes.
So the cloud is changing things now. If my son were to go and write that software now, he wouldn't write it on an old Dell computer. He would write it on his
No.
laptop. He deploy it to the cloud. The
Yeah.
customer would access it as a website. The database would be on the cloud. The backup would be on the cloud. And the customer would never ever see the computer it was running on because they would access it through their phone or a website.
Yes.
And that thinking is where I need students in your club to get to because we're still taught a lot of the time the database is sitting on your laptop. Well, that's true when you're learning. When you learn,
Yes.
stick the database on your laptop. It doesn't matter if it's slow because it's on your laptop, it's fine.
Yeah.
And you learn your SQL. You have the ASM says there, it works on my computer. Yeah, database works on my computer. But yeah, but you didn't set up security because it was just on your computer. Now I want to connect from my computer to your computer where the database is, and it says I can't get through my firewall. And you go, oh yeah, I never thought of that. That's not good enough. Instead, you would say, Stephen, I'm not going to put our production database on a developer laptop. That's crazy. Instead, we're going to deploy it maybe to a SQL database on AWS. I say that's perfect. That's all I want. I just want a relational database like they taught me in university. I know how it works. Select star from table. I'm good to go. But if you say, sorry, we don't trust the internet and we're afraid we don't know how to secure it properly. So we're just going to keep the database in a locked room. And if you want to do a SQL query, we'll give you the key. You can go to the room, you can unlock it, you go in,
Yes.
and there's no Wi Fi and no internet. And I would say, well, that's very secure. but it's not very accessible. So I can't really use that database if every time I want to do a query, I have to make a trip. And you say,
Yeah.
okay, but how do we make it secure? And this brings us to the second challenge of the cloud and the change is that I'm hiring Zainal, and you're going to be the best software engineer I ever hired. I can't wait to hire you. Okay. And on your first day, I say, now, I hope you're also a database expert and a database administrator, a security expert. You better be able to design a beautiful user interface. You better know a lot about testing. And you're going, wait, I don't know any of that stuff. I'm the coder. I write the code. You tell me the code you need, I'll write it. I go, but who's going to do the database? Now, if you're in a tiny company, let's say a startup, and there's only you as the tech, you have to do all those jobs. If you're in a
Yeah.
big company, there might be someone whose job it is to just do the database. But that's kind of changing nowadays where people say, I don't have time or the money to hire a database expert because what I have is the exact know how I need to write the SQL queries, which is why I hired you. You can do that. But you're not a DBA. You don't know how to optimize the database. You kind of do because they covered it in your classes, but you don't care about that stuff. Did you install all the right security patches in the right order? Well, I don't know. I hope so. No, no. I want to push all that responsibility onto someone else. And I'll pay them to do it, but I don't want to have to tell them to do it. And that's why the cloud becomes really powerful. Because someone can come to AWS, open an account, and say, I just want a database. And it'll say, there's your database. How big do you need it? And you say, I'm not sure, but let's start with a gigabyte and we'll go bigger if we need it. And it says, that's no problem. We can grow bigger if you need it. And it gives you all the details you need to connect to it. And you say, but what about security? And they go, we'll handle that. Okay, that's a bit of peace of mind. I don't have to worry about security. Now, I have to do the security on my end, but on the database server, AWS say, don't worry, we have the best security people and we're going to make sure that's locked down. Then the next step is who's going to administer that database? Do I have to do that? No, we're going to administer the database. You're just going to tell us what data you want to put in it and how to get the data back out of it. And then it becomes a beautiful relationship where you're saying, I just want to be the coder here. I never wanted to be a database security expert or database administrator. And that weird lecturer who was trying to teach me all that stuff, I didn't want to hear that, but I just want to do my structured query language and be happy. And that's the power of the cloud for me to let me focus on the stuff I'm good at, coding, and not worry too much about all the stuff that I know is important, but it's not my thing. Let the experts do that. Now, I'm using databases as an example. Same thing
Yes.
applies to a virtual machine, a website, um, AI. You see so much talk about AI these days. And
Yeah.
when I go
Yeah.
into universities, they're teaching students how to build models. And you think that's very important. You should build a model. Yes. You should know how to do it. But then when you say, have you tried out any of the models as a service? And they go, well, we didn't know you could do that. And you can send a single API query to the cloud and feed it an image, like a JPEG or a PNG file, and say, tell me every object you see in this image. And it'll come back with, I see a man and he's got glasses and he's got like bookshelves behind him and clouds and all this stuff. And that's incredible. If you asked me to build that 10 years ago, I would need a team of PhD scientists working around the clock for years. Now it's 10 minutes with Python. And that's all because the cloud has made these available as a service. And we've been chatting about services now, and we haven't even shown any slides. But the message I'm trying to get across is if you are a coder, the cloud gives you the ability of scale, reliability, and ease of
Flexibility.
use. Usually
Yes.
very cheaply if you're a business. I mean, you and I wouldn't want to be paying for it, but if you're a business, it's cheaper than hiring someone.
Yeah.
And that becomes a fabulous proposition for an engineer that if you're hired and they say we use AWS and we have this tricky problem. There's like 230 something services in AWS. When we launched, we had 30. Now there's over 200. And I couldn't even name them all. There's just so many and they keep adding them. And
Yes.
it's hard to keep up with them all. But the really cool thing is that for nearly every problem in a business that uses technology, they have a service to help. And like I give you like it's a funny example, but my own issue recently was my domain name that I have, www dot something dot something. I have a few, and I have to move them off the person I'm with because I want to move to a new company. And I hadn't moved them in 30 years. I've had them for so long. And I'm like, where am I going to move them? So I looked up what is AWS's domain name service, and it's called Route 53. I say, okay, what'll it do for me? And it just says, right, this is what it costs, this is how it works. And I'm like, that's exactly what I need. But I didn't know I needed it until I needed it. So I'm not someone who memorizes everything. I just look for it when I need it. Now, that's beautiful thing about software engineering, that I learned to code in computer programming languages that you've never heard of. Well, actually, I'll test you. Okay, so this is not a serious test. This is a fun test.
No way.
I named I this is a joke, but so I learned programming languages so long ago that most of them are extinct. Okay, they don't exist anymore. But when my first three children were born, I named them Pascal, Ada, and Ruby. Now, when you tell this joke to computer programmers, they realize that Pascal, Ada, and Ruby are all programming languages. So they say, did you name your kids after your favorite programming languages? And I go, they're programming languages? No, I'm joking. I know they're programming languages. And I say, that's outrageous that we would name the kids after programming languages. And little baby C++ wouldn't like to hear that. Now, I did not really name my baby C++, folks, before you report me to the authorities. But think about this. I didn't name the kids Pascal or Ruby either. Programming languages are going to come and go. If I
Yeah.
said to you, what's your favorite programming language? And you said Python. And I would say, what's your second favorite programming language? And you said Java. If I told you that Java and Python are definitely going to be around for a long time, I would be fairly safe in that bet. But there's other languages that they rise in popularity and they fall in popularity. And the thing that usually makes them go away is that another language comes along that has a type of abstraction or a way of working that's more convenient for the platform. Now, there are exceptions to that. For instance, Rust, which has a strange syntax to me, is really really good language for memory safety and optimization. It's very fast like C++. So you're probably safe learning things like Rust. But there's other languages that are becoming obscure over time. Now there'll still be jobs in those languages, but the internet is eating everything. So the worst stack to work on, in a way, is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Yet it's the most common stack. Everyone is doing that. And if you try to fix it, try to make it better, it's really tough because if you say we're going to use TypeScript, well, it's hard to find a TypeScript developer, even though everyone agrees it's a better way of doing JavaScript. But where do I hire the engineer who has the skill? So if you came in and sat down and said, I'm a JavaScript developer, I would say, that's a dangerous thing to say. Or Python or Java, it doesn't matter. Because you're not a Python developer, you're not a Java software engineer. You're a software engineer, you're a coder. If the language, for some reason, let's say Python makes a big change tomorrow and decides that it's a strongly typed language, and lots of people stop using it because they don't like that. Let's just say. I don't think that'll happen, but pretend. Then if you had said, I'm a Java developer, I'm a Python developer, you're pigeonholing yourself into a stack and a language. Instead, especially if you have studied this in university, you're a software engineer, you're a developer, you're a coder. If someone says what languages, you say, it doesn't matter. I'll learn whatever language you need. If you've got a good job going and I like the sound of it and it pays well, and you say, oh, by the way, we use a language you've never heard of, you would say, well, I'll just learn the language. And if they don't believe you, that's okay. But if you're good on one language, you can learn another.
Yeah.
What is not easily transferable is the way that if you learn everything that only works on your laptop, and someone says, how would you put that website, that beautiful website you've made in your laptop, how would you put that online? And you go, well, we didn't cover that in university. I have no idea. That's actually a bigger challenge than not knowing the language of the company you're joining. So I would say understanding that nearly everything is built cloud first nowadays in terms of big, big projects. I'm amazed by this because when I started, you would write the game so that it ran locally first, and then you'd make sure it worked on so PC first. And I'm a big gamer, and I used to write games.
Uh,
Now I mostly play them. But when I worked for Xbox, it was PC first, then Xbox, and then
so what games do you
PlayStation.
play, Steven?
Right now, I've started playing yesterday a game, and I've become very addicted to it, which is called Forager, and it's a very silly game, but it's very
Oh,
addictive. but
what this game is about?
I usually play RPGs, and
Oh,
but I play a lot of games. But right now, I'm playing far too much Forager. But I'll tell you more about games later on. But imagine
oh, addiction.
you make a game for Xbox and then
Yes.
PlayStation and then Nintendo Switch, whatever. Though in my day it was GameCube, but whatever it is now. Let's say you've made all those games. Nowadays, you wouldn't do any of that. You would make the game for the web once, and then you would say it works perfectly on the web. Everyone else can take that and bring it to their platform, maybe with Electron, whatever it is. But I made it for the web, and that's its primary place. Now, not every game is on the web. Obviously, the big AAA games aren't. But it's incredible to me that it's really like the life cycle is flipped around. The web is not the destination, the web is the starting point. And the cloud is what powers the web. Now, folks, I'm going to stop there because we've been chatting away and talking about stuff. And I have
Yeah.
slides, but I'm not sure you want to see slides. I'm not a slides guy. I'm friends with the PowerPoint team. They're amazing. I used to work
Yes.
in Microsoft with them. But you
Yeah,
know
I
what?
do
I'm
remember
not a
that.
PowerPoint guy. So I'm quite happy to
Yeah.
do a demo now and show you cool stuff. If
Yes.
you're okay with that,
That's great.
okay.
That's
So
okay.
if you don't mind, I won't show slides because, uh,
Yes, we
well,
don't like slides.
you can probably
Okay.
make better slides than me, you know? Right. So I'm going to try and share my screen. And while I do that, if anyone wants to ask a question while I get my screen sharing going, I can see the questions on the side. I can't write comments, but I can see the comments. So if anyone wants to make a comment, feel free to do that. I'm going to move. Wait, I'm going to open up where. So, so guys, I'm very lucky that where I work, they supply me with all the stuff I need. I work in AWS, and they supply me with lots of
Yes.
gear.
That's so
The
great about it.
the camera is my camera and the lighting, but the monitors. I think I have a monitor addiction. So I have to find out where I put my window on which monitor. I have too many monitors. But let's see now. Here we go.
You have
Uh,
good setup.
yeah, it is. I really like the setup. I can get a lot of work done with it. I'm very productive. But it does look sometimes you're like, where did I put that window? Right. Okay. So I'm going to try and share some things with you now and just talk you through a day in the life of someone like me who is working with AWS all the time. Okay. And some of you, this might be too easy and it's too basic, and you can tell me if that's the case. And some of you, it might be the first time you're seeing the cloud, and that's okay too. All right. So let's click. If I click present here and present, share my
Uh,
screen.
Yeah.
Screen sharing is easiest with two monitors. Screen sharing works best with a good computer. Okay, thank you, StreamYard. I understand screen sharing. I've heard of it before. And let's share this here.
Oh, it's pretty okay.
There we
Yes,
go.
we
Now,
can see.
so I'm not showing anything secret or confidential. I'm showing my AWS console, which
Yeah.
is where I'm a command line guy. I write everything on the command line. But for you, I'm going to use the console so you can see the web page version. Now, why am I using the command line? Well, it's because I'm old, folks, and I like using the command line. That's where I started. That's where I'm comfortable. I know how to type the commands I want to do. But I know younger people don't like the command line as much. But do tell me in the comments if you like the command line too. It's all right if you don't. I'm going to use the web browser because it's easier to understand what I'm doing in a demo. But usually I'm a command line interface, but I'm going to show. I'm going to start with the console. So if you can see, and I'm just going to check if zooming is switched on, and it's not. So let me switch that on so you folks can see what I see. And there we go. And there we go. And that didn't work. So I'll try sharing it a different way. So it will work the second time. And where are we? Where are we? Where are we? I'm telling you, too many monitors, folks. It's a problem. Right. Okay. Now try sharing again. Only this time I'm going to share the whole screen. Be easier for you to see. Share screen. Share the whole window. Share the entire screen. Yes. Which screen? Screen 3. There we go. Now you should see it. Only I'll be able to zoom in now. Ah,
I
there we
will be
go.
going backstage now, I think.
Oh, sorry. Say that again.
I think I will be going backstage.
That's
We
okay. If you
will
need to
wait
go
for someone.
backstage, you can.
Yeah.
I'm going to zoom in here, and you can see that I've zoomed in. And hopefully, it's not too bad the quality, but I'm just highlighting what I've recently used there. So this is my console. This is where I start from. And you can see where I've recently been, and I can also see all the different services that I have in AWS. Now, there's quite a lot of them. I'm not going to go through all of them, don't worry. But let's say today I want to do some databases. Well, I have a database section. If I click in there, you can see that I've quite a lot of different types of databases, and I might know which one is the right database. And that's where certification comes in that helps you understand all the different possibilities. But I might look for a managed relational database service, which is what we were talking about earlier on. Now, we have a few different types of this, but this is my standard one. I'm going to go in here and it'll open up a whole new page and it'll tell me what things are possible. Now, right now, I'm not using a database, but I can quickly create one just by hitting create database. Now, I'm not going to create a database. I'm going to say, maybe I don't need that. Maybe I need a virtual machine. Now, we call these elastic compute because they can grow in size, so they're elastic. And I can go into EC2 and it will show me that I have different things happening. So I might see that I have a number of instances running. Now, I don't think I have any running, but I can launch an instance. So I can quickly go in and design an instance, which is a virtual computer on the cloud that doesn't run on my computer that I want to do something with. And the main thing I have to do is give it a name. So I'm going to call it Bang. And then if I go down here, we have Amazon Linux, Mac OS, Ubuntu, Windows, Red Hat. In fact, we have hundreds more of them, but let's just go with Ubuntu. Actually, you can also tell me what your favorite one is. Oh, sorry, my mouse has gone. There we go. So I can select Ubuntu, and I like Ubuntu, but not everyone does. But I like it. My favorite word, folks, you can see here is free. So I'm going to with the free tier. This won't cost me anything. And I can go down. I have to select a key pair. I can change all my network settings, but I'm making sure that I have SSH traffic switched on, but not from anywhere. That would be very dangerous, very silly. Instead, just from my IP. And then I can configure storage. And just by filling in those details, not too many, and hitting launch instance, I can have my own virtual computer running in the cloud, ready to connect to and do anything I want. Not instantly, because it does take a few seconds, maybe 30 seconds, but that's pretty fast compared to my usual having to set it up on my own computer. But it's not just things like virtual computers and databases. We also have things like front end and mobile, game development, Internet of Things, and machine learning. And I'd like to show you machine learning. So, long time ago, if you wanted to do most of the things I'm going to show you here, it would take a huge amount of work. And nowadays, it's become kind of simple and easy. So I can select Amazon recognition and show you label detection. Now, what I like about this is I can upload an image, and here's an image of, I think it's a skateboarder. I don't think I'll be able to do that with a skateboard, but it's detected a person, a skateboard, a wheel. And over here, I can see that it's categorized it as a neighborhood, a city, a road, a street, urban, and person. Now, what's happening behind the scenes if you're a coder, because you may be a coder, is that we're actually feeding it an image from an S3 bucket. S3 is just a storage where we have stored this image, but we could also pass the image directly and we get back a response. So if you're a coder, you'll recognize maybe JSON, and we can see that it's 99.99% sure that it's a neighborhood, um, and it's in the category buildings and architecture, which makes sense. So this is just a little test area, but we can integrate this into our own applications. You could say, I want to have an app that when people visit a zoo, they scan a QR code and they go in, they take pictures of the animals, and every picture that they upload to the app is analyzed to see which animal it is, and they get points for every animal they manage to spot and take a picture of. But you don't want to have to pay someone to look at every picture and make sure that it's the right animal. Instead, you could use Amazon recognition to do it. And the really amazing thing about this is that it's super cheap. You get, thousands of images analyzed for every dollar. And, it'll be different in your currency. In euro, it's very, very cheap. But every single currency, it should be cheap. And for a business, it's very affordable. Now, it does lots of other things as well. I'm not doing them, but it can do facial analysis, face comparison. So if I try to log in, will it know the difference between me and my brother or my wife or my kids? It can do celebrity recognition. So if you are uploading a picture and you're not sure who it is and it's a celebrity, it'll say, oh, that's a celebrity. They're Tom Cruise or somebody. It can also detect text in the image and if people are wearing PPE, personal protective equipment. So this works with videos and images, and it's just one service in all of AWS. Now, the other thing I want to show you is generative AI. And you may have heard about this, but I want to show you Amazon Bedrock, which is a really, really cool service and a new service that I'm excited to show you. But it's definitely a a popular and interesting thing right now. So you've probably heard of it. Let me zoom in for you. But generative AI, you may have heard of ChatGPT and tools like that. Well, we our version of ChatGPT is called Titan, but there's also Claude from Anthropic and Command from Cohere and Stable Diffusion and Mistral and Llama 3 and Jurassic 2 from AI 21. Now, I'm not an expert in all of these, but I really do like using Claude, and let me show you why. So I can go down to my account and I can manage my access. So I have access to all of these. And that means I can go over here to chat and I can select a model, like in this case, Claude 3 Sonnet, and I can specify something like, again, I can configure everything, but I'm going to write a prompt. So you may have seen this, and I know some of you are saying, I've used this to do my homework, but don't tell me you've done your homework with it. Hopefully you do your own homework. But now, so our prompt might be, I want to write a Python program to print every second integer from 2 to 100. I don't know Python. Please give me the code and explain it. Okay, so that's a little prompt. And if I hit run, in less than a second, it's come back with a 2-line program. And it's now giving me excruciating detail because I told it I didn't understand. And it's explaining in a lot of detail how to use it. And I see there's a question from SM. Which one is cheap for the long run? You're using this services or building from scratch. So it depends on which service and how you're using it. You have to factor into the cost several things. The first one is, does a lot of data have to go in? Because you might have to pay for data going in and out depending on the type of service and type of data. The next question is it cheaper to pay someone to do it, sitting there all day just in case they're needed? Or is it cheaper to pay for the service? In some services, if you're not going to use it, you know, why would you buy it off the cloud? In other services, if it's managed for you, it makes cost sense for a business to say, I don't want to hire someone to do this one job that might only be needed for one day every year or one day a month. Instead, I want someone else to handle that for me. And it's worth paying them to do that one day a year. So it really depends, Assam. But when you get to scale, if your business grows to the point where you say, it was fine with one computer and one database, and we kept that in our building, in our company. But now that we've gone global and we've gone viral and everyone wants to use our app, we need to put it on the cloud. And businesses that need to scale yesterday, like they need to scale immediately, if they have to start moving to the cloud, they're not going to be able to do it very quickly because they they have to do everything. Whereas if they've already started on the cloud and they have a proof of concept that it works, scaling is easy. You could have it so that it only works in Bangladesh today and it works everywhere tomorrow by clicking a few buttons if you started on the cloud. And that's really powerful when it comes to scale. Again, though, if you buy a load of services and don't use them, it's a waste of money. And same that goes for cloud as well as everything else. So, my father-in-law used to always say, why buy a dog and bark yourself? So what's the point of having a guard dog and running around barking at people? You've got the dog for that. Well, it's the same with a business. Why buy a service and not use it? So you should be frugal and consider, do I need this service? Or, is it maybe sounds good, but I'm not sure I would really use it. Make sure you're going to use it before you buy it. That's what would be my advice. Now, if I scroll back up on our code, we can see that it gave us really good code for number in range 2 to 101. So that's 2 to 100 inclusive. In steps of 2, print the number. That was really good code. But if we scroll down, it's told me every single explanation for every single bit. And I love that it even then goes, explains it to me and shows me what the printout would be in summary. And it's phenomenal. But let's flip it around a bit, okay? Let's flip it around a bit and pretend that I want to add to this and say, sorry, I made a mistake. I need the code in Java, not Python. I am an expert. No explanation needed this time. Just the code. Now, I don't know if it'll do it, folks, but do you think that it'll just give me the code in Java or will it do the same again? I don't know. So we hit run and see what it comes up with. And there we go. It says, right, here's the code. Gives me the code. Let me look at that code. That code looks perfect. And you'll notice no big long explanation this time. So what Gen AI is doing for me is it's a large language model. And I've picked Claude 3 Sonnet, but I can pick different models. So I could go to a model that's not as good and not as smart. Let's say Llama 2, 13 billion parameters. Okay. So it's a much simpler model. And I might do uh, write a C++ program to, oh, sorry, I'll change it to something else. Write a suggested list of where I should visit on my holiday. Let's pick a random country, folks. Someone type a random country in any country in the world, somewhere you've never been, I've never been, we don't know anything about it. See if anyone can think of a country. And I'll show you that this is live. I'm typing in whatever you give me. Sri Lanka. I've never been to Sri Lanka. That's a good suggestion. So Srilanka. Okay, has anyone been to Sri Lanka? I haven't. So write a suggested list of where I should visit on my holiday to Sri Lanka. Okay, and I'm going to say randomly in December. Okay, now I'm not really going to Sri Lanka in December, but I want to see what it says. So when we run that with Llama 2, it starts telling me it's beautiful and I should go here and I should go there. And because I'm not an expert on Sri Lanka, again, I wrote whatever someone wrote there. Sam wrote Sri Lanka, and I said, okay, Sri Lanka sounds good. Now, I've never been to Sri Lanka, and it says that Colombo is the capital city of Sri Lanka. I don't know if that's true. You tell me. But it's important with Gen AI to check, is that true? Because I don't know if it is. That might be absolutely true or it might be completely hallucinated. There might be no such place. And that's the interesting thing, that I can give the exact same question like this and change my model. I'll change it this time to the haiku model. I like that one. Okay, and I go down here and say human, the exact same question, and hit run. Now, it's given some similar things, and it says Colombo as well, but you'll notice that it's given a more structured list with less waffle. It's just directly, here are the things you can do. Now, if I've asked it factual type questions, and I've got different types of answers, and there's a really good question that I'm going to answer coming up. I've also asked coding questions and gotten types of answers. And as we as engineers have to be aware of some things with LLMs, the first thing is that the answer is usually only as good as the prompt. If your prompt is rubbish, you'll get a rubbish answer. Now, there's a skill in learning to prompt properly, and you can add system prompts. For instance, you can say, I am an expert, no waffle or long explanations, just the answer, please. And by writing that in, I'm effectively saying that every single time I send you a command, I want you to remember this. I can also control creativity and things like that. So I can say, we want to change that up and down. I can change how long the answer is and so on. But if I go up here and reduce the prompt and say, um, let's say something that we we want the system prompt. Remember, I gave it a system prompt here. I'm an expert, no waffle or long explanations. So I might write briefly explain how EC2 on AWS works. Okay, so I've given it a very short prompt. I've mentioned what is EC2 on AWS and briefly explain how it works. Not a very complex prompt, not a very detailed prompt. So when I hit run, this is where we need to start worrying about hallucinations. Now, some people think in the future we're not going to need all you young people studying computing because we'll just get the AI to do everything. And that hasn't happened yet. Will it happen in the future? Maybe. But right now, we still need an expert to look at the answers and understand, are these hallucinations? Excuse me, are these hallucinations or are they accurate? Because, folks, sometimes they're hallucinations. And all LLM models suffer from them. Why? Well, they're predictive models that continually identify the most likely next word in a sequence. And that word may not be factually accurate. And we haven't been able to solve that as a problem. So, in order to solve it, there's a couple of strategies. There's the mixture of experts strategy, there's the RAG or retrieval augmented generation. There's also a couple of different approaches to um, analyzing the cutoff dates and giving the ability to search for authoritative sources. But overall, there is no guaranteed way to detect and stop hallucinations, which is unfortunate, but something that as engineers we need to be aware of. So, how do we work around it? Well, I'm going to show you. So, as a human expert, I can read this and go, yeah, this is pretty good. Yeah, 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 I agree with all that. You'll notice that it's quite brief. If I didn't have this answer, it'd still be waffling along. But the most efficient way is to know enough to know that it's hallucinating or not. The next most important way to work around it is by using what what most people would see as a foundational model. So if I go in here to my base models, they're grouped by family right now, but you can see the different tokens that went in and the different attributes they have. So complex reasoning and analysis, conversation and text generation. Some of them, like the level 3 models, can analyze images and some of them can generate images. Some of them can't do that at all, but they can follow commands. So the way around it is to identify the right model for the right job. So if you said, Syed asked the question, Syed said to me, Stephen, I'm building an app that needs to be able to, I put in how many people in my party, what foods they like, and it can identify the best restaurant in my town to go to for a celebration. And if it brought you to the wrong restaurant that didn't have the type of foods you liked, you would say that's rubbish. But you also wouldn't be happy if it booked the restaurant for half the people who want to go. So you have to be very careful if you use certain types of models. They will hallucinate and tell you that everything is fine. Other models, and I think the best one right now is the Claude 3 group, um, like Claude 3 Opus and Claude 3 Sonnet and Haiku for coding. They are they still can have hallucinations, but they're more likely to say, because they're trying to be the most honest possible model, say, I don't know, or I'm wrong, or I shouldn't have said that. Let me do it this way. Now, I want to tell you a warning story that I discovered last week. Okay. So, my boss asked me to build an app in JavaScript, which I did, and Python. And I went to build it in Python and I ran into a challenge. And the challenge was that the user interface for building the web page that I wanted to use was Nice GUI. I never used Nice GUI. And I noticed that there was a lot of comments on GitHub about how the tool they were using, which is a well known LLM, was failing to produce code that worked. And the comment from the developer was is that Nice GUI came out after the cutoff date for the knowledge that was used or the internet sources that were used to build the model. So it didn't know about Nice GUI and it couldn't answer it. Now, some of you might have seen in the news how, oh, this LLM is so dumb. We asked it who the Prime Minister of England was, and it said it was Boris Johnson, and sure, he's been gone for ages. And that's because on a particular day, on a particular month, in a particular year was the cutoff date. Now, as models add new data and they become more aware of up to date sources, that will improve. But we recently saw a big tech company try to integrate Reddit comments into their search results. And that did not go well because I don't know if you've ever been on Reddit, but some of the people there say very or write very strange things. And it was taking these as face value, and you can't do that. So it wasn't hallucinating, it had a source, but the source was clearly writing incorrect data for fun in the hope that people would laugh at how outrageous it was. And some people don't get the joke. And unfortunately, LLM didn't get the joke. So that can happen. There is also a danger, though, is that a lot of data being produced by LLMs is now live on the internet. And it doesn't say produced by an LLM. And there's no way to detect is text from an LLM. Sometimes there's indicators, but there's no proof. So what happens is that a new LLM model is being built and it sucks up all this rubbish that was generated by a previous LLM, takes it as human composed, and actually produces worse output than the original because it got badly generated input, and you get a cycle of rubbish happening and you'll get more hallucinations. So some people worry, some scientists worry that the best time to get the data for your LLM was before LLM started producing their output, which you can't go back in time. So that's an interesting challenge. But how do devs mitigate? The easiest way to mitigate is to ask questions so specifically with your prompt that if there isn't a clear answer, you don't get an answer. You get, I don't know, or null, or whatever it is. So I've had to do that with an app I built, and I couldn't release this app because of this problem with hallucinations. So I built the app, and it would take your web browser's longitude and latitude from location services if you agreed to give it. It would then attempt to figure out where that was. It would then send that address, so a longitude and latitude to address. It would then send that address to an image generation along with the weather API and say, generate an image of the weather here right now, and here's the weather. So I'll show you how that worked very quickly. Image. So what city are you in now, or what town? Write it in the chat. One of the towns you're in right now, because I don't know. I don't know where you are, but if you write it, I'll use it. And Syed, it's a very good point. Will it get better if we get more training data? In theory, yes. But what happens is sometimes the training data is bad. And we saw that recently, which is not good. So I'm going to say um, I'll use where I am right now because the temperature, can't spell. Hi Zainal, we're nearly finished, aren't we? Have we one more minute?
No, no worries. We're
Oh,
enjoying your.
I see someone has said Camilla Bangladesh. We'll do this and then we'll wrap up. Okay. So tell me what the
No
temperature
worries.
is, folks. What's the is it hot, cold in Camilla today? I think it's probably hot.
It's hot. Yes, it's really hot.
Well, how hot is it? Tell me. What's it in
Uh,
Celsius?
the I think the highest one was 42.
It has never been 42 degrees in Ireland in the history of all time. If I was 42 degrees here, I would immediately burst
Oh,
into
now
flames.
Assam has commented it's 37.
And is it sunny? Is it cloudy? You tell me.
Well, there's lots of different comments.
Well,
37,
I'm
30.
going with 42. Okay, is it cloudy, sunny? You tell me.
Sunny.
In where did it go? Cumilla Banglades. Okay. Uh, Quality of this weather and location for my weather app. Okay. Now, here's the problem with hallucination. I've given it the London on a Monday. Yeah, not when I've been to London. So the temperature is 42 degrees Celsius. It's sunny in this place, Kumila, Bangladesh. Generate a painting of this weather and location for my weather app. So it knows it's for a weather app. Now the problem is that I can specify how strong I want the prompt to be. The default is 10. Okay. I'm going to ask it to do 50 steps, but you'll get a better picture at 150. Let's just do around 50, and we'll pick a random seed. Now, this is where hallucinations comes in, because I bet you it doesn't know what it looks like in Gumila, Bangladesh. It's never been there. It doesn't have any data, so it's just going to
Yeah,
hallucinate,
yeah.
and it could be good or it could be terrible. So I've asked it what it looks like where I live, and there's skyscrapers all over. There's no skyscrapers in Ireland. Like, so it just hallucinates. So you don't know what it's going to show you. It could be literally anything. And that's the challenge, okay? Is that if you give it a well known place, like let's say London or New York, Paris, you'll get there's loads of source images that it can build on. But where I live, there's none. Now, you might say,
Wow,
yeah,
that's an image.
that's what it looks like.
That
But
actually looks like Kumilla.
well, there you go.
Uh,
So now I can say generate a photo.
Green
Now the
field.
photo will not be as good. I'm changing it to photo, and I'm going to
Yeah.
say give me more. And actually, I'm going to save this one just for you guys as a memento of our event. Okay, a silly thing, but just something. And I'll change it to be 37, which is more realistic. Sunny, clear skies in Kamila, Bangladesh. Generate a photo of this weather and location for my weather app. So we run it again, and someone says close enough. So remember the challenge here is that people expect that when you give a prompt that it magically understands what you mean, but it doesn't.
That's
Instead of
true.
saying I've no idea what that looks like, I can't do that, it goes i'll, I'll do my best, and you get hallucination. So there it goes. Now again, I've never been there. If you invite me there and you brought me out and showed me that, I would be like, wow, it
Yes,
looks
one
just
day we
like.
will invite you.
But that's the thing, imagine you saw that in your weather app and you go, that must be what it's like. Whereas I bet in real life, who knows what it's like. So I'm not enough of an expert to know if that's a hallucination or not. I'd have to ask my friend in Bangladesh, is that accurate? And that's the challenge with LLMs. So powerful when you have a human expert to say, that looks right, that looks wrong, that looks right, that looks wrong. Then they
It's
become
have
really
to
powerful.
on human error.
Human in the loop. Because you know the way humans can be the problem, humans can also be the solution sometimes. Right.
Yes.
I'm going to stop there and say thank you for listening to me. I hope you found it interesting. Thank you for the comments and questions. I really appreciated them. I'm happy to answer questions. But I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me. I really enjoy speaking to students. I hope you enjoyed this mad tour
Yeah, okay.
of cloud computing, and I'll hand over to you now.
Yes. So thank you for Stephen for such an enlightening presentation. We really love having you here, and I really want everyone to fill up this feedback form because there will be lots of questions on AWS later on from our club. So make sure fill this form up. Also
Please,
join our meetup group. Oh, there's a comment from Syed.
thank you, Syed. I just want to remind everyone, my boss looks at every survey, so please do fill it in. We
Yes,
love the
do fill it up.
feedback, good, bad, indifferent. We really do
Yes,
appreciate it. Um, and I'm not saying she's going to fire me if you don't fill it in, but please do fill it in.
yes.
And
Your feedback will help us improve our sessions and
that's it. That's
also,
it.
yes,
And you
bring
see, you
more
have the link
insightful
there.
session.
Really good. Thank you for posting that link. And finally, I
Yes,
want to say, folks, if you're not a member of the meetup group, do join the meetup, because we track those numbers and it helps
yes,
us devote resources to support the clubs. So, for instance, me speaking here, I'm supposed to be on a run with my wife, and
yes.
you're keeping me safe in here because she's taller than me and she's an athlete and she's going to chase me if I don't run. So I'm hiding in here. But folks, my boss is
Yes,
happy
we are
to
really
approve.
glad to you are
Yeah.
giving us so of time.
Well, no, that's the thing. My boss is happy to approve it, but we'd like to
Yeah.
see more members in your club. So please join the
Yes,
meetup club
we
if you
also
haven't
have
already.
I think 570 plus members here.
W-
So we're
How many?
hoping 570 plus
That's
members.
amazing. That's huge. Wow. That's brilliant.
Yes.
Folks,
Also through this session, lots of people joined our group. Like 30 people have already joined this
that's
events.
brilliant. Well, I'm very pleased to hear that. And folks, when you hit 1,000, invite me back. We'll do another event. That's brilliant. Okay.
Yes, that's
Right.
really
So,
great.
folks, do fill in the survey if you can, please. And
Also, we hope that one day you will come to Bangladesh and
I
attend
hope so.
session.
I think the next trip, so I'm usually traveling a lot, but
Yes.
usually around Europe. But the next trip is America, and the trip after that is India, and then the trip after that, I don't know. But someday, hopefully, maybe next year, we'll
Yes.
figure out how to do it.
Also,
Okay.
there's a large beach in Bangladesh, Cox's Bazar, so you will enjoy it.
Very good. Very good. Well, listen, it's been lovely to be invited on. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for all the comments and questions. And I really enjoyed speaking to you, and I hope it was useful for you all. And I have to go now because it's 6 p.m. and
Oh
run
yes,
for 5K. But I really enjoyed being here with you.
we really
And
enjoyed having you here. Like
thank
you
you.
have such an insightful presentation.
Well, I look
Also,
forward
the
to the next time.
also we're glad that you didn't show us the slide because we really loved
Death
them.
by PowerPoint. Oh, it's so.
Also,
It,
many people
yeah.
got to know what how AWS looks like, so
Well, I
it's
think that's
really
more
great.
fun. That's more fun than
Yes,
slides.
yeah.
Slides, you can have too many
Practical
slides.
demonstration are fun to
Yeah,
watch.
yeah.
So yeah,
But no, definitely. And folks, keep on learning and good luck with your studies and look after yourselves. Okay. I'm going to drop now, but take care of yourselves. Okay.
yes. We also end the session now. So I think you can leave. All right, everyone. So do fill up this feedback form, and this will help us improve our future sessions. Also, from AWS Cloud Club, we will host also so many sessions. So make sure to like our Facebook page, join our meetup group. Also, I will share the link of the meetup group later. So make sure to like our page. Also, I hope you enjoyed this session a lot. So I hope you all are enjoying your Eid vacation. See you all next time. Have a great night. Thank you.